Here's your wrestling news for May 24th, 2023. And last July, it was reported that WWE would be changing the rating of Raw to TV14, and fans were eager to see the move away from a PG product. While there have been examples of blood, foul language, and suggestive themes in the time since then, much of the product has been more or less the same, but things could be changing again soon. Yesterday, WWE CEO Nick Khan attended the JP TMT event and spoke about the possibility of making Raw more adult, at least in the third time slot between 10 and 11 p.m. WWE experimented in the past with ideas for Raw's third hour, including edgier content, lowered house lights, and Raw Underground, but none of those ideas stuck around for long. While WWE may soon be leaning into more adult content, the company's focus remains on winning over kids and turning them into lifelong fans of WWE for years and decades to come. If the company does introduce more adult themes, it's unlikely that they'll make an official announcement, but what are you hoping to see from Raw's third hour if the changes are made? Monday Night Raw could soon see more violent, edgier content during the show's third hour, but SmackDown could also be undergoing changes of its own. Since the show's launch in 1999, the Blue brand has provided 2 hours of entertainment each week, but that could be about to change. During the JP TMT event, Khan said that WWE is open to adding a third hour to SmackDown, just as they did with Raw back in 2012. At the time, the decision to add a third hour to Raw was a direct order from the USA Network, and while it is allowed for more content, Raw's third hour has often struggled in the ratings. During his talk about SmackDown, Khan reiterated a recent point he made, saying that SmackDown could air on any night of the week, depending on how the media rights negotiations go with Fox. WWE's current deal with Fox is due to expire in the fall of 2024, and it'll be interesting to see what changes are made to the Blue brand in the months and years to come. During this week's Raw, Cody Rhodes suffered a broken arm at the hands of Brock Lesnar, but that won't stop the American Nightmare competing at Night of Champions. In a backstage segment with Triple H, Cody refused to seek medical attention, and when the game spoke about postponing the match, questioned what Triple H would do if he were in Rhodes' shoes. This was a very intense standoff between the two, and if some of Cody's dialogue may have seemed familiar, that's because it was. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Live, Bryan Alvarez explained that this segment was based off of a real-life argument between Triple H and Bryan in 2013, saying, "This is actually a worked version of when Hunter wanted to stop that Bryan Danielson match and Daniel wanted to fight him in the back, where Hunter is trying to tell him you can't do this and Cody's furiously explaining, bro, you've done this 1,000 times, what would you do? Finally, Hunter gave in, and now Cody Rhodes is going to Night of Champions with a clipped wing." It was when Bryan suffered a stinger during a match with Randy Orton in 2013 that Triple H called off the match backstage, and Bryan at the time was furious and said the match wouldn't have ended if Triple H was the one who got hurt. Ironically, it was this match with Orton that would kick off Bryan's 2013 main event run, and while he is allegedly hurt, the fact that Cody's segment was based off of one of the most beloved babyfaces ever bodes well for his future. At New Japan's Resurgence event, Willow Nightingale made history by becoming the first NJPW Strong Women's Champion, beating Mercedes Mone in the finals of a one-night tournament. Given that Mone was the biggest star in the tournament, many expected the ex-Sasha Banks to get the win, and that's exactly what was planned at first. As Dave Meltzer explained on Wrestling Observer Radio, the new title was created for Mone to win, but it's pretty clear why exactly the plans changed. Meltzer added that it was Mone who made the decision in the match that she couldn't continue, and therefore the decision to put the title on Nightingale was made in the ring. It was reported shortly after the match that Mone has signed a new contract with Bushiroad, the parent company of New Japan and Stardom, but there's no confirmation on how long her deal is for. Had everything gone according to plan, Mercedes Mone would be the NJPW Strong Women's Champion at this very moment, and we'll have to see what comes next for the new gold after this unpredictable start. At the time of Mone's injury, little was known about exactly what happened, and all that was known was that she had hurt her leg. It appeared during the match that Mone suffered the injury after a dive to the outside, but we now know much more about what exactly went down. During Wrestling Observer Radio, Bryan Alvarez revealed that Mone felt herself slipping and decided in the moment that it was better to jump and try and control where she'd land than fall off. Alvarez added that he's heard that Mone suffered a broken ankle during the match, but was able to continue for another minute or so, which shows the toughness of the former WWE superstar. With a broken ankle, it can be difficult to predict when a wrestler will be back, and while some people can heal in weeks, for an athlete like Mone, it'll at least be 4 months before she's back. Mone is just the latest prominent woman on the injured list, joining the likes of Liv Morgan and Dakota Kai, and we here at Slat Rock wish them all speedy recoveries. More injury news now, as Liv Morgan is going to be out of action for the time being with a shoulder issue, one that may require surgery to correct. Whether Morgan is out for a couple of weeks or for months on end, that's what doctors will have to decide when looking at possibly operating, but WWE is already making plans for her return. During Wrestling Observer Radio, the topic of Morgan's return came up, and Bryan Alvarez floated the theory that Morgan could come back as a heel. His reasoning was that Raquel Rodriguez didn't wait long before moving on to a new partner, and according to sources within WWE, the idea for a Morgan heel turn were discussed months ago. The idea first came up backstage after Liv's SmackDown Women's title loss to Ronda Rousey, and her more extreme, unhinged character was meant to culminate in a fully fledged turn. Between Morgan's popularity with young fans and Nikki Cross's similar gimmick, WWE eventually decided against the idea. But would you like to see a heel turn when Liv is healed and back on TV? For decades, Vince McMahon has been able to decide what exactly airs on WWE programming, and the chairman has often faced criticism for micromanaging shows. In his attempt to swerve fans, McMahon has often gone against the obvious choice when deciding winners of matches, but the chairman took a hands-off approach for one feud in 2005. Speaking on his podcast, Kurt Angle explained that when he feuded with Shawn Michaels in 2005, McMahon had so much faith in the two that he didn't even bother choosing which would win. Kurt said, "Listen, there's no doubt in my mind that if Shawn was going to lose at WrestleMania to me, I'm going to have to pay it back. There's no doubt about it. Yes, that's how it works, and I don't blame him. I was willing to do that because he did me a huge favor." Actually, Vince didn't have a winner for WrestleMania. He had us work it out between ourselves, and Shawn said, "Listen, I'll put you over because I know this is what he said, and I totally forgot this." He said, "You know what? You're going to end up doing a program with Cena afterwards, and what you need is a good win right now." After Kurt's win at WrestleMania 21, Michaels got his win back at that year's Vengeance event, and the pair would reach a 2-2 tie when they had an Iron Man match at Raw's Homecoming to the USA Network that October. The WrestleMania match is considered one of the best matches in the impressive careers of both men, and it goes to show what can be achieved when Vince McMahon is out of the picture. Over to NXT, and ever since his arrival, Tony D'Angelo has been a certified wise guy, with his family business being in waste management, if you know what we mean. The last time fans saw Pretty Deadly in NXT, the pair were left sleeping with the fishes thanks to the dawn of the Gold brand, but now D'Angelo's activities have caught up to him. During last week's episode of NXT, D'Angelo was taken into questioning when his name emerged in ongoing criminal investigations. This week's show saw D'Angelo face a series of interrogations by law enforcement, and when he was asked if he was free to go, the officers made it clear that he was not and put him in handcuffs. As of now, the specific charges against D'Angelo and the potential consequences he might face remain unclear, but it'll be interesting to see what happens next for the Don on the Gold brand. In the near 2 years that D'Angelo has been around, it's been heavily suggested that D'Angelo undertakes in some criminal activities, and the Don could be swapping his ring gear for an orange jumpsuit soon enough. And we're ending today with some truly fantastic news, as NXT superstar Myles Borne is now a happily married man. Taking to Instagram very recently, Borne revealed that he and his bride tied the knot recently, and the happy couple celebrated with cake and by adopting a new puppy. Borne signed with WWE last year and has been mostly featured on NXT Level Up and live events, but has made a handful of appearances on the main NXT programming. Borne is WWE's first deaf superstar, having lost his hearing due to a childhood illness, but that hasn't stopped him from achieving his dreams, and we'd like to wish him and his wife all the best on this joyous occasion.